So we'll be starting with the advanced search operators this time. It is a continuation from where we left with basic search operators. We dealt with proximity search, looked at the asterisk, which was the more complex part. Booleans got covered. So now we can comfortably, we can start with the advanced search. So I have these set of slides. Okay. So let's, it's an older slide, but I think it could be useful if we can quickly go over this one. So you can see my desktop, everything is clear. You can hear me as well. And so we can start. You can see the cursor moving. Let me see if I can change the color for this cursor quickly. Pointer. Pointer color. Be a color here somewhere. Not the good time to make this happen. If I can't do it right away. Good, Mila is here also.
I've been able to see it without any problem.
All right. Hi, Mila.
Hello.
Good to have you. Good to have you in the class today.
Thank you. You too.
Glad you could make it.
Thank you.
So we're starting with advanced search operators today, Mila. It's is it Mila or Mila? I'm sorry, I may not be pronouncing it right.
Oh, Mila, yeah, good.
Mila,
Thank you.
there we go. All right, thank you for that. So I have an introduction that I'm going to make on the advanced operators. Just sort of an overview first, and then we'll start to get into the details. So this is the slide. It's a slightly older version of some of the information here, but where I'm pointing to right now will serve the purpose for showing you this chart. Now, remember, with the search query situation, we learned about proximity search, which is one way of structuring your queries. There's another sort of search we call precision search, which is better restrictors and a lot of precision in your search results. And what we use to do that is a combination of basic search operators and advanced operators. So in precision search mode, we finished up how to do keywords and search phrases, long tail, short tail. So it's kind of a review of what got covered. But in this box, you could see it says search operators, which is where we're referring to advanced operators. And we have these boxes under it that's going to tell you how we have organized or would like to organize our advanced operators. There are certain advanced operators that work on file formats. So we have one kind that is shown in this box, says file formats. Operators like file type with the colon sign, that's one of them. Then there is another class that we'd like to put under the category of snippets search, which basically snippets in this case means that to fetch the different elements or the 3 elements of the snippets, like the title part, the description, and the URL. So we have operators that work to get the title, which is in title. Another one is description that is used for with in text. There is links that we'd like to look for and match words that make part of the stem of those URLs. The type of operator we use in there is called the in URL or all in URL. Then the domains is another class where we are restricting search to certain domains. Operator in this case is site colon. Source, where the information originated, or if we want to do a deeper search into the resource where it's pulling the information from, we're going to use advanced operators like info colon, link colon, source colon, and so on. And then ranges, numbers, dates, and so it has a place which is separate or has a structure which is slightly different from any of these other advanced or previous advanced operators. And so we'll look at all of these. So this is an overview. Here in this chart, it says why we use this, when we use this, or it's used for what reason, like by who or whoever is, you know, the professionals that normally require more of a use of certain type of advanced operators. So this is the last column, which is what is giving a very brief view of, you know, its use. Then everything else over here, we don't want to worry too much about. However, there is something that talks about signs and notations. Notations will be coming across, or something that we feel that's useful for us are signs, notations like $sign, @sign, the hash, asterisks we've done already, and so on. Okay, so that's just an overview. Now, must have left out this area. Now with the online search, we have learned about search queries, but other than search queries, there are elements or the kind of knowledge that you need in understanding or interpreting the search pages itself, which has different, you know, components listed in there. So, you know, things like suggestions, what people search for, questions, special boxes that appear. So that's reading search pages. Specialized search engines is another expertise, I'd say, that you should have to understand where to use specialized tools, or there are special search engines or portals, certain type of utilities that we classify under specialized search engines. And to find where they are, and to know if you have a reference index of some sorts that you create internally to assist you in doing quick searches by finding these resources from your own organized desktop. So these could be actually organized for ready use. This part we will also cover. The concept of deep web, what is it, and why there is a confusion when you read statements that says that 90% of the web is hidden. Very bold statements and very irresponsible statements, but they're everywhere online. So to know exactly what is hidden and what is available, and where we like to know slightly more about the dark web or where the dark web exists within the deep web, that part we will learn. So this is just giving you an idea of how we will be covering rest of the chapters. So in the red fonts, the first tab is snippets, which is the different sort of the different advanced operators that sits under the category or the main category of snippets related advanced search operators. Within these snippets is a title area. So what are the operators we are going to cover in the title, in the description tag, in the URLs, and typically they have a structure of their own, which is standard, seems everywhere. Even in Bing and other search engines, you'd find that the structure is the same, which is, there is a word and then there is a colon sign after, another word and the colon sign after. Interestingly, you could see that only in the snippet advanced tags or its advanced operators, you find that there are two versions of the same or similar operators. One says in title, another one says all in title. In the second one, there is in text with the colon, and then it's followed by all in text. In URL, and then there is a word all that gets attached to the original word of in title, which means that it is now getting padded up. It has an additional function or an additional restrictor, which changes somewhat the utility of this operator in title just by adding the word all. In fact, all in title is just one long word now, again followed by the colon sign. So practically we have two operators, same ingredients, but slightly different flavors. And I'll explain you why and when we use all. Then we have format restrictor, which is the file type and the colon sign. And this is where we are going to ensure that the formats of different sort of files that are indexed at the time the search engine is collecting the pages, it is basically organizing some of the file formats that are part of the website page. But those formats are limited to what the search engine has the ability to store and later be able to match your search terms with them. Microsoft Office, mostly with the extensions or file type, like doc files like Excel and XLS and so on. All of those are included, and yet there are restrictions, or you could say that there is a kind of a limitation to the type of other file formats that won't be recognized or are so far not considered to run with file type : yet they exist in the indexes, and we'll be able to learn what those are so that we know which one of them would work with the file type, and others that don't, perhaps we can find a way around it so that it would still be discoverable, but we may not be able to use file type : so we'll deal with that as well. Sources of information, which is like the similarities or similar file for similar type of origins of that information set, coming from a type of industry, coming from the type of products and services, so that it has a more of a grander view of looking at similarities between certain type of businesses or certain type of index pages. That's where we're going to use related and colon sign. Source, discovering wherever the type of information exists in any format which has a relationship to the website or certain type of search term, is discoverable in a more in-depth way by using source : link : is going to find all those links that exist in the entire index of search engine to look for wordings or match with wordings, or to ensure that the path of that URL or that link has words that can be scooped up or scraped in depth from wherever they exist in the index of those pages. Domain restrictor is going to ensure that you have certain domains that would be looked into with the intent to ensure that the information found or the pages found are directly connected with that particular domain. So for that reason, we'll be using cite in a colon sign. Then there is a date range, or a precision search requires at times to give a parameter to finding some information pages, mainly when it is a date restrictor, and within the range of date, or even to give it a restriction to run as before a certain date or after a certain date to find those pages. Proximity we have done. Symbols and notations we'll do along the way as we look into complex search examples. So we are not particularly going to look into each one of them in depth because they are pretty much self-explanatory. As we start to use them in real searches, you would understand the utility and the flexibility as well as the effectiveness of using these notations and symbols. So I think what I'd like to do is start with the file type first. On the left hand side, this part is going to take large, it's to cover a large area of information, which is where in title, in text, and any URL will be dealt with. And we'd be particularly looking at the HTML tags to discover it, or to run these to find at what part or in what location of the content page certain information can be matched by using these three different operators. So let's just to simplify it in the simplest way, I'd like to start with file type and a colon sign first, and then we'll proceed to snippets related search, and at the end we'll be doing domain restrictor. Source of information is going to be the last in our lecture. Structure of these operators. There is a lot of significance to how these the words followed by colon are constructed. They're designed for a certain reason, and they have a kind of a structure that sort of delivers an information or looks for and matches information by interpreting what it stands for. Like the word file type has a significance for being used as an advanced operator only after you have placed a colon sign. So a few things we'll be mindful of, and I'm going to again plug this from here and to put it in the notepad, give you an idea of what they mean. Even though they are explained very well in the slide, still I'm going to explain it in more detail. Let me just put a date here and put your batch number, because these notes are getting collected, and I would like to start with file type here. Now let's suppose we have the wording file type. Do you want me to zoom in? Do that just a little bit. Now, if you look at it carefully, this word itself will not be executing any command if you leave a gap of a single character or any gap left between the colon sign and the last alphabet of the operator name. You would actually be telling the search to treat file type as a word and not as a command. So never leave a gap of any character in between. What file type is doing is basically declaring something when we say algebraically expressed, so that it is easy for me. Let's suppose X is equal to file type. And let Y be declared, let's call it to be declared value. Whereas colon is okay. So the components are like this. I mean, even though they're explained here in the in this slide, but I think this will be even easier. So X, let X be the So what X is the name of a declared value. So, you know, just as you write in algebra, X is equal to 1 or X is equal to A plus B or whatever you want to declare. But for it to be recognized or to be declared, it has to have a name. What is the name that you want to declare? It is file type is the name. File type is now considered a command only when you have put an exec or you have put in something that executes a command, or it is a function. It is a function that gets triggered. It is a trigger to initialize a function. So file type is saying for it to execute a function that it wants, the colon sign is telling the search to find the value or what file type is equal to, or what file type would declare against or right after the colon sign. So if the word file type and colon is used, there are a recognition criteria in the search engine when we're doing algorithms to ensure that whatever file type is declared for has a higher level of value that is put into or is given to file type to be recognized against certain type or certain formats of value, or whatever the value you're going to declare has to be pre-recognized formats that can be parsed against file type. Uh, so you can use extensions like PDF and don't have to put any capital letters. So let's say PDF you can use, but if you're going to put .pdf, that's going to, you know, create a confusion. You know how we have extensions for different types of documents like a PDF and docx and xls and so on. So all you have to do is just put the extension, not anything that is preceded by a dot, which sometimes is a mistake. And at times when you are learning things through the internet, you know, with the articles written, they do create a confusion. So just ignore where you find a dot. It's not necessary, and whatever is not necessary, do not put it in. Only because it functions or it delivers results, it doesn't mean that it's a good idea to do it. So whatever is recommended is always best. So never put a dot. Let's say other formats that you can put against is XLS or XLSS. Okay, so whatever the values that is going to come after the colon sign has to be the file formats. So if you put anything like Word in Word, like you know, you want a PDF with any thing, not, let's say, you know, sometimes when we are writing file types, what are the typical mistakes? Let me think of one. So one was this. The second is that you use a lot of people use asterisks after the dot. They use asterisks. Not a good idea. Never put a dot before asterisk. It's going to really create mess it up. Another thing is that you cannot put a word like PDF file semantics, right? You cannot do that, right? So I'm going to copy this and tell you another complication to this, because people think that just writing the PDF is complete, yet these two words, which is an extension of something that is considered as individual keywords, they function alongside PDF, but PDF file semantics is not the entire word that it's going to be entertained. So it is not going to look for the words. Okay, the function is only looking for the file type. Anything that is an extension of it or any words that you add to it is not what makes part of the file type execution of this command. So we are going to ignore that. Then we have we can just go back to the slide. Now, technically speaking, if you are asked the naming convention of how these structures are given a specific name technique. In the technical sense, file type is called the property name. The colon sign or the colon notation is property operator, and whatever is declared after is a property value. Okay. Now, just to make a distinction, or just to give you an idea of what gets declared as a property value, it has to have a relationship with what is used as an operator. So relationship in terms of what needs to be declared, I'm going to explain that. For instance, if it is in title colon, or it is, let's just put another one, in text colon, there is in URL colon, all of these are going to be followed, or all of these colons are going to be followed by the search term. Okay, so here you can only use search terms and not the value, not the function like you know, not the file formats and not the domain names. So you're going to, whenever you're going to use these three operators that are snippet related, you will have to ensure that all of these operators are followed by, or anything that comes after the colon sign are only the words or the text. It cannot be numbers, it cannot be file formats, but it will only take the text or the words or the search phrases. Whereas in file type, it will only take the file formats. So to be mindful of that. Similarly, if it is site, if this is what you're going to use, then you have to ensure that all are domain names followed by the extension of domain like .com, .org, etc. So if you're using the site operator and you write something that says AOFIRS, it's not going to work. If you write AOFIRS.org, that's what is going to be recognized. So the declared property value has to correspond to the advanced operator that has a very specific sort of declared value or property that has to have that has to be understood or to be recognized as having a format of its own. So if it is textual, if it's a format that requires plain text, these are the three. If it is a format that makes it look like a domain name with the extension, then site and colon is where the property needs to correspond with the declared value of the property in the shape of a complete URL, in the shape of complete domain name. So anything that falls short of it will not actually work with these operators. So these are some of the basic restrictions, or basics of what, and in another way, you could think of having anyway, I think we've explained this enough. So let's just stop at this. That's just to give you an idea of what needs to correspond to the formats. It is meant to have a specific formats to work with it. The advantage of using the advanced operator is that you can use several of them in the same single search query. You could use certain advanced operators that would actually work with other operators better, while there are certain operators that are too finicky, and you are better off using them as a single instance and not adding other options to it. So there would be these rules and these specifications that are very peculiar or particular with the operators. So if you look at these two, for instance, as these, okay, so we have these two, literally these two are two different queries. Like you can run them separately. For instance, if you're looking for IRS.gov website for finding form 1040, and the word you're using is download, this is one set that can work. While if you want another restrictor to be added to the same search query, you can use file type also to be more specific about the file format. So basically, while these two queries can work separately, they would also be able to work together. And for it to work together, we can see what could be the better way of adding site and file type in the same search to effectively find the same elements or use the same word download by looking at how it is formed. So this is one way of learning on how you're going to create a search query with advanced operators by minding the gaps, by looking at how these two were added together to give it a one single structure. And where you see this arrow pointing upwards, this is just to give you an idea of the gap you need to ensure that is left in between the words. So if I have to write the same search query to get a result which otherwise I could get separate from one instance that I can run totally separately in the left and right, it's best to run it in one instance and make it more productive. So that's where advanced search operators come in real handy. Advantage of combining search logic with operators in single search string. So this is one single search string. What is the advantages? One, it allows use of multiple restrictors, prevents use of repeat words, right? Builds single prong logic for precision search. I want to get to the file type. I'd like to start with the file type. Where is the file type? Okay, we look at this one. And at the same time, I'm going to open the book and ask you to mark the pages in case you want to do your revision or look it up in the book. So where is the book? We'll go to chapter 10. I want you to look at a chart that tells us the type of formats the search operator file search, the file type would be able to use. and there are other formats that it won't allow you to search for. For a lot of people, other formats may be important also, and then to know how we can still be able to search it by using an alternative to file type. So that's going to be the first topic we will cover, chapter 10. So let me just we'll start with this after we take a short break now. I'm going to start with file formats. It's on page 118, chapter 10. So let's take 10 minutes and 10-15 minutes, and I'll see you in a little bit. So I've opened the book. I want to show you when we are using file type : there are certain type of file formats that the search will be able to look for if you use this particular operator, while there are other formats that's not discovered if you're using file type : So what we have here is a list. As you could see, I've opened the book. It's on the first page of this chapter. It is giving us a list of all those file formats that can be discovered. You can look for flash files. You can look for certain type of files which you probably didn't know that exists, but are very useful if you are doing if you're trying to discover specifics or specialized type of images, like Google Earth, for instance, satellite images that are actually indexed by Google, which are dated as well. So if you want to look for those images in previous dates, you can use formats like KML, KMZ. GPX formats is another type of formats that discovers the location of a particular address, directly giving you the GPS locations, latitude and longitude and all that. HTML by default is discovered, so you don't really need to worry about HTML or use HTM or HTML extensions, not necessary.
But we're not supposed to use the dot, correct?
No, you're not supposed to use the dots. That's over here is just giving you file formats that are inclusive of the words that are followed by the dot. It's XLS, for instance, or XLSX, PPT, PPTX. It's all Microsoft Office. You can also search for files like source code. If you're looking for open source code, and if you are doing any programming, you can discover it easily by using the TXT. TXT normally is not as secure and perhaps not discovered as much. Most of the type of content you'll find in TXT is probably, sometimes there are passwords, there are things which somehow end up getting indexed, but they are particularly put in the TXT format files. So who knows what's going to turn up, but TXT is one of them that you can use. This is typically the Notepad file formats. Wireless, wireless markup language is another one. Again, this is slightly high level, but what we are really interested in is the Microsoft part, which points to the typical PPTXs, Word formats and PDFs and so on. And I am surprised a lot of times people are looking for raw data or anything that is in the form of a structured data, normally found in the XLS files. Even stats, census, some interesting data which otherwise gets lost when you assume that it's only going to be embedded in PDFs, while there is a lot more that is there in the XLS file formats. So, there is a utilization or a particular advantage of using or looking for certain file formats. I don't know if you noticed, surprisingly, there isn't any file formats for the images or for the music, movies or multimedia. None of these are in the list. That means that if you're looking for an image type JPEG and you're using file type :JPG, it's not going to be discovered. So that's a little bit of a shortfall where we know that image files are important, and yet these are not entertained by the file type. And then I guess the next question in your mind might be that we can always use image utility with the top navigation on the Chrome bar. So to discover that separately without having to worry about file type. But let me tell you, technically, the image search is not the same as doing Google search. Okay, so just listen this carefully. Image search is a totally different algorithms and a totally different routine that the search engine runs as a separate algorithmic process, which actually is looking for images, but it would not discover it with the search query, but rather as a utility, or it is something that is comparing images and doing some additional functions, which obviously tells you that it is not the same as searching for those type of file formats or images files by running it in the search query. Only reason being the file type : is not going to run with it. So there is this limitation. So discovering it through the image utility versus searching it through the search query are two different functions. And we are, misled into thinking that we get hold of all different image files only because we are using a separate utility, not understanding that there is a lot more that can be discovered by being slightly more creative in changing on or without applying the file type. There is something that would work or is a workaround that would still get that unknown or undiscovered file formats by using a simple colon sign. So we will deal with that as well. Right now, I want you to just understand how the queries are structured with the simple PDF documents and XLS documents that we'd like to discover. We have the book here, but at the same time, I do have the slides that would explain it the same or explain the same thing, which is where I'm heading to right now. Okay. A simple search using the file type extension is shown in this slide. And let me just use the same example. I'm going to pull this from here. And insert it here. In this search query number 2, we are just showing you a simplified way of finding a PDF format of anything that has a title or something in the PDFs that has these wordings in it as a single search term: Internet Research Specialist. Now, when we are to write this query, we would structure it exactly how it is presented in front of you, as you can see. So this is just basics of how a typical search with file type would work. This will restrict our results to finding everything that has a PDF file format, or nothing will be discovered that is in HTML, which is exactly or typically what we discover when we are doing search with just the search keywords. So here, all our results will be pulled from the PDF files. Notice here that we have left a gap of a single character to separate our query, which is using file type, and no gaps after the colon and the extension PDF. This is just it's just FYI. Sometimes there is a question of whether we can be moving the search terms or their placement in the search query, and would that have any impact in the search results. So let's suppose if we were to write the same search query by putting the search terms on the right hand side, like this, what would be the impact, or just the placement, or just moving one search term from being put in before or after the file type PDF? What would be the consequence of that? There would be practically no impact in the search results. However, you will find a slight difference in the numbers, which is not significant. So truly speaking, it does have slight impact, but it wouldn't change what you're supposed to be getting in the first few search pages, or the total number would not have a differentiation as much, or could be, so slight that it is negligible. So basically you can write it both ways, okay, and it would still be okay. Let's run some examples. This is more important to understand and to know whether or not we can do search for different file types at once, or if we can create search queries in a single search string where we can look for multiple type of files at one time. So I'm just going to again pull these examples, rather just copy this first. Let's consider this search query. So we are looking for two file types. We are looking for XLS and PDF at one time. Can we do that? Is that possible? That's what we are going to learn. So if we are to look for XLS as well as PDF files for anything that has to do with California stroke deaths 2015 statistics, these are loose terms right now. We haven't enclosed them within quotes, but assuming that any of these combinations or whatever these wordings are, they need to discover something in XLS and PDF. When we write two instances of first, let's just do, I think it's best that we do a simplified version. So if I have to do file type PDF, let's see what happens. All I get in my search results is PDF files. You could see that this little icon that says PDF is discovering everything that is exclusively coming in PDF formats and nothing else. You could see it's the whole page over here. But supposing I am also, while I'm looking for PDF, I don't want to lose out on my results that are using XLS data types. So I might want the file type to have another instance that would bring me only PDF and XLSs. If I do that, what's going to happen is, first of all, I have to add another instance, which means that I need both PDFs and XLS. If I write it like this, let's see what it's going to do. But even before I hit the search, know that file type has got a nature, or it is considered an absolute command, which means that it should be exclusive and be restricted to a single file type, ideally, or according to how it is prescribed by Google search. However, we'd like to get a little bit more creative and make it more effective. So we have started to experiment with it and discovered something which I'm sharing with you. This is where, in spite of it being a absolute command, I want a second instance of it as well, and not want it to contradict each other, and to actually bring both results. Let's see what's going to happen. 0 results, basically 0 results. So this is what it means when I say it's an absolute command. It is actually defined by Google to work as one instance typically, and not to include or conflict with another instance that contradicts the initial command or initial instruction of restricting it to only one format. So how do I extend it, or how do I make it work for me? Is that I'm going to have to give it the flexibility of adding the OR using the symbol vertical bar. When I do OR, I'm asking search to find either PDF or XLS. Okay. So, but here there is a dilemma, and we are just going to hold on to this for right now, and I'm going to copy the same thing. Before I explain the dilemma, I'm going to run a successful search by using 2 file formats. One is XLS, the other one I'll just use doc. Okay. And even before I do doc, let me show you what I did earlier to run and give me the null results the same way. If this is to be file type doc and file type XLS, it's still going to give me null results, 0 results. Okay. So for me to make it work or make it happen, there is an alteration that I have to do. What happened here? And what I would end up doing is, for both formats to be discovered, I'm going to put the OR to find either XLS or doc to make it work, or to actually rig it, as you know, it's not recommended, but to sort of be more creative, I put the OR, and this way it's going to discover either or, and it would actually give me the results. So when I did this, I was able to get doc files, and I'm quite sure I'll be able to find XLSs also with relationship to what my search term is. So both of these formats are going to use any of these or combination of these search terms, and find me only these formats which I've described. Okay. And without OR, it's not going to work. Why? Because ideally file type is an absolute command. So supposing I want to extend my search, go little further and add another format, not talking about PDF yet. So there is a caveat where the PDF has a peculiar function, somewhat different from how it responds when multiple formats are used against PDF with PDF. So for now, the third one that I'm going to add to is, let's say, file type, and I say PowerPoint. And this is the third instance of the same file type. I discovered PPT, I discovered doc, I discovered PPT doc. Somewhere I'll get XLS as well. Nothing else is showing up. Invariably, even if you turn to different searches, different SERPs, you keep flipping these pages, go to the next one, still be the same situation. None of it will have files other than what is being searched for being only 3 formats and nothing else. Now, what I would like to do is to go a step further. In fact, let me just go back to where we left earlier when we used the PDF. So far, we didn't use the PDF format in the examples we just did. So now supposing for the same terms, search, we are doing search with PDF and XLSS. Let's see what it's going to deliver. Here, the peculiar or the function of how the search has returned PDFs all the way, even if you go to the next page, it would seem that the search has ignored XLSS and predominantly attending to PDFs. It is only delivering PDFs. So PDF files are dominating XLSS. And even if I put another OR, as we did in the previous example, and use file type for a format that is, let's say, doc. See if we can get docs, if not XLSS. Again, all we see is PDFs. It seems that search has ignored XLSS and doc files, which according to convention or how it should have responded similar to how we did it with other file formats, is not delivering as expected or exactly as before. My resources are getting sucked up for some reason. It's not moving as quickly. That's my hardware. So all of these are PDFs. Even if you go to the next page, it's PDFs. Thing is that only with the PDF file format, the search engine somehow has a tendency to not deliver results in the first few pages or even to the next few SERPs where the PDF is predominantly occupying the space for ranking reasons, as if it is preferred format, and it has somehow ignored XLSS and docs. Whereas technically it may be discovered, but towards the very end or some of the results may be not even showing because the number of results restrictions by Google. So they may be there or they may exist somewhere, but it won't be noticed or it won't be discovered or it won't be ranked. So when we are doing search for PDFs particularly, it's a better idea to not worry about or not use other formats. Just look for the PDFs particularly, but anything other than PDFs like XLSS, docs, PPTs, or other file formats, you should be able to run it successfully and find all those formats in one go. Is this clear?
Makes sense.
All right. And you know that unless you use the OR, you're not going to be able to push or force these formats to be interpreted, as you have placed them. So it would not work without the OR. Okay. So this is one technique where you can expand on certain absolute operators to work against or with each other, in spite of the fact that they're considered absolute. Okay. So when you're doing your search with the advanced search operators, always remember that there is an opportunity for you to use a minus sign so that the results that you're seeing may ignore certain file formats from being discovered. So if for any reasons I'm doing a search with the same search terms and I am discovering a mix of file formats, but at the same time I don't want a particular file format to be discovered, that means I want the search to ignore the file type PDF totally, I would be able to use a minus sign without any gaps to be continued with the file type colon operator and followed by the format, as you can see right here. So any minus sign that is hugging or is, just attached to the type of operator would mean that you have emphasized for the search to ignore a particular format. To run it in the search, we can try it and see what happens. Assuming this is our search, and let's see if it is going to bring any file formats we don't require. See, this is a PDF that's coming up. Could be other formats as well, but mostly these are PDFs and not many results. So just with this result and understanding that PDF is not required, we would have to mention it in our search by putting a minus sign. The next search that we'll do when we hit the search bar, we don't want PDF to be showing. So let's see what it's going to do now. Do you see any PDFs, any results with the PDF marking? I don't. So I think it did its job. And just by putting a minus sign, we are particularly telling the search not to include the file type PDF. Sometimes when you do your search by putting a minus sign and just writing PDF, they do not understand where the word PDF is considered as part of the search results. That is different from how you would ask the search to ignore the file format PDF. What they do is they write the file format thinking that it is the word that is to be ignored in your search results. And therefore, it's not the same as using file type : and PDF. So don't equate that with the word, because word is not the format, but rather inclusion of this word in your search results is different from discovering the formats, particularly the PDF format. So for that reason, you have to be specifically mentioning file type : and PDF with the minus sign and not putting it as a word. Okay, so next thing we want to see is how are we going to pull some of the formats which otherwise are ignored when you use file type : image files, JPEGs, MOVs, MPEG-4 and so on. All those very important formats, but for some reason search wouldn't find it for you if you run it with file type : So PNG image with okay, so what is the transparent PNG white horse? Okay, so let's use the same example. Now I'm going to again put make the colon. I'm going to make the colon sign, just the sign itself, just the notation to find those files. Now, if we take an example of search looking for file type PNG, looking for a white horse PNG and a transparent image. These are the wordings that we can use. And let's try to run this. Now, first of all, file type with the PNG means that we are looking for a PNG file format. And knowing that it is not supported with the file type : we might want to look at it first to figure out whether or not it is going to do it. So to put the same query in this box, I'm going to try to run it. So all I'm getting is something that's pulled from the images file, but very limited results. Apparently, it is not functioning as a search query, or it's not a successful search query. This is why it is showing about 0 results. And Google has this tendency, they don't want to show you null results, so they always bring something which may or may not be relevant. But typically, this is what is identifying 0 results. Okay, So the search didn't bring anything back because PNG is not recognized. If I do JPEG, it would do the same thing. That's because it's not recognized. So how to go around the or find a backdoor to find to look for the JPEGs? What you could do, and this is more like a trick or more like, you know, just using the colon sign for what it stands for. And if you recall, this is what triggers a search against the words or the text or anything that has a colon sign before would only mean to execute something in relationship to what it has on the left of it or the left side of it. So on the left side of it is the wording white horse and transparent. And on the right of it is in relationship to or what it needs to work against or declared value or property name, sorry, the property value against the execution sign only, and not defining the text of what the text like file type, for instance, it stands for. So now when I do a search in this manner, should be able to get the results. This is a workaround. So when you do this, you can get those images and you can see that these are coming, you know, so easy to get. All right. And even when you compare this search with the image search, which is, you know, at the top right here, you will get different results because it's querying a different database, literally. So this is just to give you an idea of how you can force the search to find something, or especially in this case, the file format, by using just the notation colon sign. Is this clear? If you have any questions, you can ask. Okay.
Clear.
Thank you. And we have a few more examples that I'd like to run. And those are in the slides right here. Yeah, this should be good enough. Where is it? Okay. Same way, if you want to do a search looking for the IRS form 1040 and you want to look for the PDF version only, you can do the same query what you could have done with putting the file type and colon and PDF by losing the word file type and just using the colon sign. But there is a difference in what is going to be returned. Here we are not talking about images, but now we are comparing the utilization of colon sign against the file type, which otherwise would work in both ways by using only the colon, losing the file type, and by doing file type colon. So what could be the difference in the results and where these results are being pulled from in the content pages, where the location is important or the format is important, yet it is responding just by using the colon sign instead of using the entire advanced operator of file type. So I'm going to tell you what the difference would be and why sometimes writing your same search query this way can be more helpful than to write it with the file type. So let's take two instances. We'll do 6, write or place it as shown, and then First of all, these two queries, 6 and 7, are they correctly structured, you think? I just want your opinion. Or to rephrase my question, would 6 and 7 execute as they are designed or how they are formed? Both are correct. Both are correct. But the purpose is different. The purpose of this one is to find now this statement is important, that's why I'm writing it. And okay, so there is a difference. First of all, let's look at the number of results. What's going to be returned when we write it this way versus writing it the other, and both 6 and 7 are correct, so you keep that in mind. Write it as so in the first instance where I have used the colon sign, I haven't used file type colon. I get nearly 90 results, eh? So 90 are coming, and it is looking for PDFs. But if you look at how they are returned, you don't see the icon of PDF in all of these returned results. Please observe this part. This one doesn't have it, some has it, others don't. So to first of all see that it has 90 results, which is more than what came about when we used file type colon. The difference is that you get less results when you used file type, and invariably if you go down and look it up, you find that all of these have icons which says PDF, all of these, which is not the same case as in this, yet it has discovered the PDFs only. Okay, there is a difference in the number of results for two reasons. One is that when we are using file type colon, your search is pulling from the index pages only the PDFs formats that are recognized or is actually a file format separated and indexed as a PDF file, so that the time that you click on the results, it would take you to and open up the PDF page. Means that it is taking you to the document directly. It is discovering documents which are indexed in PDF formats only. In true sense, file type is now executing it in the sense of finding the PDF formatted documents within embedded in those indexed pages. And therefore the link is taking you and opening up the PDFs directly. Okay. Versus when you do it with the colon and PDF, losing the file type and not applying the actual operator. Now the search is going to find more results only because it is not only looking for the PDF formats, but it is discovering any of the PDFs that exists on those index pages that are particularly mentioning the word PDF and not the format PDF only. So it is actually pulling the two sets of information, one that has to do with IRS 1040, which is listed on the content page or has a link on those content pages with the extension of PDF as a word. And at the same time, it is also discovering the PDF as a formatted or PDF, the originally indexed PDF document. So it is actually now finding you or delivering to you more of the PDFs, which otherwise, if they are not put in properly by whoever the, whichever index pages, the programmer hasn't actually done it properly or has a mention of the PDFs, yet it is not stored as PDFs. So those files get ignored. Okay, so when you do colon without file type, it has a larger volume of results and it has more area of scraping through or finding anything that has got the word PDF attached plus the PDF document. All that is actually put together and pulled for you. So that's the theoretical part of how it is assumed to be done. We don't go behind Google's search engine to look for why they do it or how they do it or if what we are saying is true or not. But everything that is taught to you in the class is based on our search results, our analytics, our ability to discover something which is assumed to have a particular characteristics or behaviors that we collect and we pass it on to you as a knowledge. So do you have an understanding of how these two ways of using or formatting or forming your queries would be different with colon and without and using the file type? I'm sure this concept you would appreciate and realize that it opens up a lot of opportunities for you to use or look for documents. Any questions thus far?
All good.
All good. So Coral, Mila, you guys doing all right?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Interesting, eh? I mean, it's just one advanced operator. We just conquered one. We've got so many more to go. So as long as you're getting it and you are comfortable with, having enough knowledge that you can actually work with, you can try it on your own. Perhaps, when we get done with the class, and we always have a gap of one day, maybe you want to try some of them and then come up with questions if you have for the next, when we meet in the next lecture. But we're pretty much done with file type colon today. And that's where I want to finish our lecture. And after this, we are going to work with the snippets with the in title, in text, and in URL. So we have a class day after, eh? I'm sure. I just want to look up. I don't know. Can you please look up the schedule if you have it open by any chance, just to make sure that we are meeting day after? And that's going to be what? It's today's Wednesday, Thursday. That's going to be our Friday lecture, right?
It's on the schedule.
It's on the schedule. All right. Then I look forward to seeing you in class on Friday. I'm going to not continue right now. It's because, I just want to start with the entire thing on the snippets fresh and continue with there. Okay. So Anything I can answer for you? Any questions? Anything that you're curious about on this? We have little time. Let me check if in the file types, if there's anything else that is important. I don't want to miss out on. There are certain queries in these slides which I shouldn't put you through these because they are advanced operators and we haven't covered in URL and in text. So we're going to hold on to this one, and you may have the curiosity to ask perhaps later if you missed any slides, but it's not about missing out in the slides. It's just about the continuation of the concepts and the so that it has a relationship to what we have learned thus far, and not to introduce anything new which is to come later. So I'm going to ignore some of these slides, but we'll revert back to it, make sure. All right, so let's just meet day after and call it a day. Thanks for attending the class. Look forward to meeting you on Friday. Okay, take care now. Thanks.
Thank
and
you.
bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
You should answer.